It's the Cavaliers Basketball Club Podcast.
It's basketball time at the Cube.
It's over! It's over! The 52-year drought is over! The Cavaliers have won the NBA championship! Cleveland, this is for you!
Mitchell
Goes to the basket and buries Cornette.
Garland high steps over the timeline, stumps on a dime, hits the three. Darius Garland has been unreal here in the fourth quarter. Jack clock down to 5. Lillard blocked by Mobley. Oh my! Take his home. Challenge Allen, and Allen said no.
Get that big stuff out of here.
The shoot-around.
Welcome back to the show. The regular season is winding down, and the Cavs have had a tough time heading to the finish line. Since our last recording, they lost a nail-biter to the Hawks, 118-120, got stomped by the Knicks, 116-130, and then thankfully followed that up with a 115-105 win against the Pacers. Most importantly, they won Tuesday night, 117-113 against the feisty Orlando Magic, eliminating them from the playoffs. Colin, the Cavs locked up home court advantage with this victory. Did you think this was going to happen against the Magic?
To tell you the truth, I was really nervous in the fourth quarter. They were able to get some stops, but they also had around 6 turnovers, and Darius Garland looked shaky. Luckily, Donovan Mitchell propelled the Cavs to victory with another 40-burger. I'm excited to see this man in the playoffs, and hopefully the rest of the team can match his tenacity. Please be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or follow us on the podcast player of your choice. Also, be sure to visit our YouTube channel and subscribe. And please be sure to leave a comment. We'd love for you to engage with the podcast.
Just a quick note, we're sad to announce that our very brief partnership with the Basketball Podcast Network has ended. Yes, that's right. It's over. Unfortunately, due to the ever-changing landscape of podcasts, they had to close up shop. We wish all the best to the podcasts that were part of the network, and we plan to continue on like nothing ever happened. So, Colin, we had a chance to see the Knicks put the beat down on the Cavaliers. Mitchell was quoted after the game saying that he felt the refs allowed a playoff atmosphere out there and that the younger guys on the team benefited from seeing the difference, i.e., it was a much more physical game. What did you see out there that has you concerned about matching up against the Knicks in the first round?
I completely agree with what Donovan is saying. Obviously, we are going to have issues if the refs keep letting that type of physical play and we don't respond. That was maybe the biggest problem I had, was the team, besides Donovan, wilted. They really didn't have the mettle to get through the game, and they allowed for the Knicks to get too comfortable and to get shots from outside too easily. And even guys like RJ Barrett, who is a solid NBA player, they allowed him to dictate what he wanted to do on offense. And that's just not what the Cavs defense and this team is known for. They're the ones who really make sure that the other teams feel them on the defensive end. And that was probably the biggest concern that I saw, and it's hard to judge because we'll get into this later, but Allen was out of this game and Okoro was out of this game, so I'm not really sure how the team should respond. But was there anything else that you saw that was concerning with the Knicks game besides them getting the crap beat out of them?
Well, as you said, we're missing some pretty important guys. Allen is the heart of this team. I just heard it last night against the Magic. Everybody knows it. We live or die with that man being in the starting lineup or being able to play at all, really. And it's because we've got nobody that can come in and kind of be his backup or be his equal in any way. Mobley is a great player, but he's not Jared Allen. And I think we've been concerned all year long that because Robin Lopez just didn't really end up being anything on this team. I mean, like, he's a great cheerleader from the sideline. Nice guy,
yeah.
And sounds like he has a great sense of humor. But I really have been disappointed that we've been unable to average maybe 10, 12 points a night with him. especially against certain matchups where it would have benefited for him to get out there and get his legs under him going into the playoffs. And the way JB has played guys with such smaller rosters in the past, with as he's headed towards this kind of scenario, I don't see Robin getting much of an opportunity in the playoffs. So that means Allen is even more. We live or die even more by his ability to play. So yes, we'll get into Okoro more, but Allen, I think, is the big reason why we got stomped in this game. You never want to see us score 14 points in a quarter, especially the fourth quarter when we are the fourth quarter team this year. However, the two big stats that stick out are that, and we got out-rebounded 48-33. Well, that's a stat you're going to have because Allen is out of the game, and we really don't have another big to replace him. Therefore, Mobley has to go to work and pull down 20 boards, and he's not going to do that, right? So I think this just goes to show that the Knicks are going to be a tough matchup. We should take them very seriously. They play extremely well on the road, but they play very poorly at home. We play very great at home and very poorly on the road. So one of us has to change that dynamic, and they're going to beat the other. All right? That's all it's going to take. These teams are extremely close in their ability, and it should be a tight series. Except, and we'll get into this more later as well, Donovan Mitchell is a big it factor here. And if he decides to average 50 a night because he wants to do that in front of his fans and his family at home, then good luck. It'll be a 4 or 5 game series.
Yeah.
Isaac Okoro missed his 4th game this Tuesday against the Orlando Magic. Rumor is that his knee is sore and he's concerned about it, to the extent that he hasn't even practiced since his game winner against the Nets last week. What concern do you have for him and for his possible absence heading into the playoffs?
To me, this is a major issue for the Cavaliers. I think that Isaac has been a player that the team has relied on not only this season, but the last couple of seasons. Even though he isn't this amazing offensive talent yet, he's clearly developing, but he's known for his defense. That's why they drafted him. And they need a really good point of attack defender like Isaac Okoro to keep these teams in check, keep these players in check. And when they played the Knicks, they were playing against Jalen Brunson, and Brunson just went off. He had a career high against the Cavs and didn't really look bothered by any of the players that the Cavs put on him. And I think that was noticed with our boy Lamar Stevens. It was noticed with Karis LeVert. They had Mobley would rotate on him occasionally. He had a little bit of trouble with Neto, which I found interesting. But I think that the team would really have to figure something out if Isaac is not going to play, because the identity of not only this team but the coaching staff is defense. JB Bickerstaff is a coach who not only preaches defense, but he uses it to gauge what coaching decisions he needs to make during the game. He really does try to figure out how the game should be won on the defensive end. And I think that Isaac is that guy. We've talked about it a lot, and I would be, from a scale of like 1 to 10 concern, I would be a 7 or 8, because he is just that good at being that type of defender. And I'll just add this one little note here. He's really good against guys who are like Brunson, that size, because Isaac is slightly bigger, is able to body up those players, and he's just as quick. He has that quick twitch muscle ability that is able to stay in front of these point guards without fouling. So that's kind of my feeling, is it's a pretty big deal. What about you?
Yeah, I think that Isaac Okoro is a person that, if you're a casual Cavs fan in this town, you're sleeping on him a lot of the time. You don't really know what to expect of the kid, and frankly, you're probably expecting too much. And what we both know is that when he joined this team, we instantly became a much better defensive team. Same thing with Allen. these guys are pivotal to our defensive identity. And Okoro has certainly struggled this year to make his way into the starting lineup, but he's still been a solid defender through and throughout. It's his shooting and his inability to kind of be productive on the offensive end that has made him be somebody that they're unsure about. And now that he's been able to get some of that shooting back, and he hits a big shot, right before he gets hurt in the following game against the Rockets, this is his time to start contributing to the team in the ways that we've envisioned, in the way that the Cavs have envisioned from the beginning. And he was averaging, between 20 to 30 minutes a night, and he was starting to contribute between 8 to 15 points a night as well. So now that's all zeroed out. And on a team that has Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen and Darius Garland, and the list continues to go, right? We have a lot of players that should be not slept on at all, right? Like we have a very good team. However, when you take a glue guy like Okoro out of the defense, when you take glue guys like Jared Allen out, all of a sudden we're just kind of mediocre because we're an undersized team that can't defend from the middle part of the court up. And you're just not going to be successful with that kind of composition as a team. So Okoro actually is going to be an unsung hero or a team MVP kind of candidate because you really need him the most so that these other guys can get out there and do what they do best.
For sure. The other player that he competes with minutes for, Caris LeVert has upped his game defensively, but you've seen even right now when he's playing his best, he has lapses defensively. He's going to have those issues, and that's really difficult for a team like the Cavaliers to deal with because they are so young, and you can't have a guy who's almost 30 have these certain lapses where you're allowing guys to move right into the lane or just completely losing a dude on the defensive end. Caris does that occasionally. He does that maybe once a possession in a game, and that's how you can lose a whole series. That's how tight the playoffs can get. And Okoro he's also a guy that I just wanted to see in the playoffs. I'm hopeful that he'll be healthy because I feel like his type of game, his style of defensive mentality is really fun in the playoffs because the refs finally let you play more physical. And I'd love to see that because he would irritate the heck out of some of these players.
Yeah. And I know I saw an article that mentioned that J.B. Bickerstaff said he wasn't sure that Okoro would be ready to go in 2 weeks. And that Chris Fedor mentioned that he hasn't practiced at all. So, and I guess one of his quotes too was that I don't have an answer right now, to be honest with you. We're trying to progress him. We'll see what happens. We've always got to do what's right by him. And then I just think of somebody, that we've always mentioned could be comparable in their games, Kawhi Leonard. And his knee issue and how it's really derailed the last few seasons for him. I think now guys look at a player like him and go, not me. If I'm going to have knee soreness, I'm going to take this seriously. So I read that as Okoro is concerned, and therefore they are concerned, and they don't want to put him out there until he's ready. That may mean it's a little more mental than actually physical, and we could see him out there sooner simply because it may not actually be that bad of an injury. But Okoro has to be in the right headspace, or he'll make it worse. It won't matter.
Yeah. Adam, the playoffs are coming up, and the Cavs will be the number 4 seed. What are your predictions for the team, and how do you think the 2022-2023 NBA playoffs will shake out?
Obviously, we're Cavs fans. This is a Cavs podcast, so we're very hopeful that the Cavaliers will move beyond the first round. It's exciting that we made it into the first round. There's no play-in. There's no question. We are in the playoffs this year. And I have to also mention that we won 50 games. So good on the Cavaliers. We hit the 50 mark. Sounds like we'll be playing reserves the rest of the way, so probably no more wins. But you know, it's a pretty cool thing that finally, with a LeBron-less team or a no LeBron-led team, we've got a 50-win organization, and we are on our way to a pretty bright-looking future. That being said, so what is our future this season? What are we contending with? Obviously, we've talked in this episode about our expectations of the Knicks matchup. It should be a good one, even though I am a lifelong, I'm going to say Knicks hater. Sorry. Sorry, Knicks fans.
How dare you?
I lived in New York, and I don't want to offend the New Yorkers, but, you know, just out of the spirit of a good sporting hate, I've always hated the Knicks because I grew up a Bulls fan, and that just solidified it when I was a kid. You know, it was really easy watching Michael destroy them most of the time. So anyway, long story short of that, I think it's going to be a good series, and I think that we have a real good shot of leaving that first round, of making it into the second round. That being said, what's going to be facing it, or who's going to be facing us? Well, most likely the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis and all of those guys, previous champions of the world.
Yeah.
Right? So obviously, I don't have a lot of hope that we're going to beat them in the best of 7 series. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch that matchup and to see the kind of growth that the Cavs will obtain by playing a team of that caliber in that scenario. So there's there's so much to be excited about, but for the Cavaliers, for their growth, and for what they're going to learn. I just hope they don't go out and lay an egg and lose, in the first round. That would be awful. But I don't anticipate that with someone like Donovan and his leadership. I just don't see it happening.
We've talked about the Knicks situation. We know they're playing them. We know we have home court advantage. I'm hopeful that the Cavs will be able to eke out a first-round win. I do think that it will be the most competitive first-round series because it's the 4 or 5. The Knicks and the Cavs have a pretty evenly matched up type of team. They both have solid size in the sense of their front court, and they both have really solid guard play as well. And I agree with you, though. I think that Mitchell is tired of underperforming in the playoffs. It was one reason why he kind of wanted out of Utah and is really always been high on the Cavaliers. And I think he has a super high expectations for this young team. And he's really going to be vigilant to make sure these fellas step up. The Cavs are so young that I think that it also might not really hit them yet, and I think that actually might help them a little bit in the first round because hopefully it allows them to understand the moment but not actually get overwhelmed by the moment. I hope there's a little naivete to the situation where they are serious but they don't really understand the complete situation and just get that first round win. After that, you're right. They're playing the Bucks. The Bucks are real good. They're coached well. They have Giannis, who's insane. And I think that it'll be an interesting matchup if they get there with how Giannis is utilized and how the Bucks can come together. They're always a team that is seen as underperforming in a sense, even though they did win a couple of years ago. And they need to have a lot of things fall correctly. But Giannis is just, he really is that in that realm right now where everything is, he has those great cosmic powers, to quote Aladdin. So I think that it would just be a tough matchup.
Well, I want to actually throw out a little bit of a prediction here for the Cavs, and you can mark it down as something that I've stated, and I
now.
have to own up to whether, you know, if it doesn't come to pass. But
NBA champion. No, okay, what?
Right, no. I think that the Cavaliers have, if they come out and play the way that they have for most of the season, I think they have a chance to frustrate us early in series and possibly come back late in series. So both the Knicks series and the Bucks series could come down to 7 games. And that could simply be because in the first 2 or 3 games, we could really struggle and lose a few. I could see us coming out and losing the first game against the Knicks, even though it's at home. Because we've been kind of, historically all year long, we've been a team that comes out and basically loses the game in the first half and then wins it in the second half. And I kind of feel like that's been our MO all year. It might even bleed over into a series or two, where it literally takes us a few, and then when we get our legs under us, then it's a mad dash to the end, and we might eke it out. Maybe not. So what do you think? Do you think we have a chance?
Your prediction is what?
My prediction is that the Cavs can make it into the Eastern Conference Finals if they continue to play the way they have all year, which is basically that they're never really out of it. So they're going to come out cold in a lot of these series, but then get hot. And that actually is going to be a benefit. It's kind of common sense to basketball, but it's also the way we've been playing all year long.
I could definitely see something like that happening, because it also that prediction also builds on what I was kind of thinking. Is I am a little curious to see if there is a naive nature to them initially, where, again, Evan Mobley is 21. If Okoro is healthy and playing, he's also 21. There is a naive nature to that youth, and it's really up to JB and Donovan to say, hey, over here, let's get serious now. And I could definitely see both series going to 7 just because of that youth, per se. But I also don't question the idea of them getting to the Eastern Conference Finals because of their overall ceiling of talent.
Right.
The Sixers and the Bucks, I think, have proven that they are truly the better teams in the Eastern Conference. I think that Boston is solid, but they're they go up and down so often, I'm not really certain about them. Sure. And I think, but even them, they were in the finals last year. So you never know.
The final seconds.
This past Saturday, Adrian Wojnarowski reported that the, quote, NBA and NBPA agreed to eliminate restrictions limiting a team to 2 designated Supermax players. This would have a huge impact for the Cavs, who have Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland on Supermax deals, and Evan Mobley approaching his rookie extension, unquote. Do you think Gilbert will give him the cash?
You better. Why do you make millions and millions and billions or whatever of dollars and then own a basketball team and you don't pay out when you know you have an exceptional amount of talent and you can possibly make your way back to the finals for years in a row again and solidify yourself as one of the best teams in the history of the game, and you did it without LeBron, which has to still matter a little bit to Gilbert, right? That he can do it without him. It's like Tom Brady proving he can do it without Bill Belichick. This has to matter. So, yeah, why make all this money and have all these things and do all this stuff if you're not going to put the money down when you can get the most for it? And yeah, okay, it'll cost you a lot, but who cares? Let's supermax this team and get 5 amazing people, then just win for a decade the way that the Warriors have, or the way that the Spurs did, or other teams have. Let's figure this out. So the fact that we already kind of have a team being built in that direction, it just means we get to keep what we have. And obviously, what we have needs to prove it should stick around. But I think this season has basically shown that there needs to be additions not necessarily subtractions. So overall, yes, put the money in the pot and let's get these guys going. Let's win some rings, right? Yes, they're all young now, but in 5, 6, 7 years, they'll all be 30 or older, and that'll be that. So strike while the iron's hot. I know we're not drafting anybody for a while. That I know for sure. So now it's time to go out and pick up some free agency and get this thing finished out. Not LeBron. Donovan Mitchell issued a strong message to the Knicks this week, setting the tone before their upcoming series. He's relishing the chance to play in front of his family and friends back home, and he knows the Cavs will be bringing it once they get their injured guys back. What's your prediction for Mitchell? Will he add to his stat averages, or will they remain at their already inflated level?
So currently, Mitchell has had 40 points in 4 straight games. Obviously, that won't happen to wind down the regular season because he's not going to play these last 2 games, probably. But I think that he will definitely put up 40 points in a few of these games because he's going to have to. I think that the Knicks have a pretty high-powered offense when they are hitting from the outside, and Brunson has already shown that he has a lot of great savviness in getting buckets. He's shooting well in the paint. He's getting to his places on the floor, and I think Mitchell does it at a better level and in a way that is more assertive. But Brunson's kind of more of a savvy, smooth operator as a scorer, and I think that they're going to go toe to toe. I really think that as long as the Knicks are going to be putting up points through him, or even if it's Randall, if he comes back, Donovan is going to be the guy on the Cavs who is going to say, I'm going to outscore the other team's best player. And that's what we expect out of him. That's why we traded for him. He is the killer on this team. He is the assassin. He's whatever euphemism you want to make, where he is the guy that's going to bring it. And that's why he wants to move this Cavaliers squad from the first round to the second round to even further. And I wouldn't be surprised if I expect him to probably average close to 32, maybe even 35 points a game. And some of these games he will more than likely go over 40 because he's going to feel compelled to do that.
Thank you for listening to the Cavaliers Basketball Club podcast. Let's go Cavs!